Hi, in this video I'm going to cover how you assemble the clarinet. That's including the reed and the ligature. We're going to put the whole thing together, so you might want to practice with this video a few times until you memorize the whole process. Let's begin. Okay, so now I'll place a diagram down here and I'll show you each part of this instrument. Alright, so first we have the mouthpiece. Alright, looks like that. On the mouthpiece actually is going to go the ligature. Okay, some of ours might look a little different, but they all work the same. They're what we use to attach the reed to the mouthpiece. Next is the barrel. Then the upper joint, okay, which is where usually we're going to have our logo. Like there's my logo right there. Then we have the lower joint, which is slightly longer than the upper joint. Okay, and finally, the bell. Now we'll show you how to assemble this, starting with the reed, mouthpiece, and ligature, because that's the most important part. So now we're going to start assembling the clarinet. What we need to do before we do anything is we're going to take our reed, this little piece of wood that's very fragile, we're going to be careful, take it out of the reed clip, all right? I only touch the reed on the thick part, the bottom. See, it's a little thicker there. I'm just going to soak that in my mouth while I assemble a couple other parts here, because the reed needs to be wet for us to play, okay? Soaking it in my mouth, I'll talk with it in my mouth. I'm sorry. Okay, so I've got the mouthpiece and the barrel. First thing to do is to attach these with a slight twist. If that's a struggle, you're going to put a little bit of cork grease on this cork, and I can help you with that if you want some help, okay? All right, now if your reed is wet enough, give it one more quick soak. Now we're going to attach the reed to the mouthpiece. Now, if you look at both of these parts, let me try to line them up here. The reed has a flat part and a curved part back here. Same with the mouthpiece, okay? See the flat part here and the curved part back here. We are going to attach the flat part of the reed to the flat part of the mouthpiece like this, okay? Now, I'm going to try to make sure that it's nice and lined up, and what I do is I use my thumb to hold that reed on there. Okay, and I'm going to try to make sure it's lined up. Let me turn it around so you can see. See how it's lined up quite perfectly? The next thing I'm going to look for is a little sliver of black at the top, a little sliver of mouthpiece. So I don't want the reed to go over the mouthpiece like this. That's not going to work. Neither do I want it to go too low on the mouthpiece. All right, that won't work either. So what I'm looking for is a little sliver of black at the top of the mouthpiece. I'm not sure if my camera quality is good enough, but you see a little sliver of black up there. Do you see it? Okay. Actually, you can kind of see a little chip in my reed, so I was misusing my reed. Try not to chip your reed, okay? All right, now I'm going to hold my thumb there. I'm going to take my ligature, all right, and without chipping the reed, without touching the reed, I'm just going to put that ligature over the reed like this, okay? Now what I want you to make sure is that your ligature screws, these screws, are facing your right. You're right, okay? So I'm looking down, my screws are facing right. I'm going to go ahead and place that over my reed like this, making sure that the ligature goes over this hump back here. You see how it's over the hump? Like, I don't want this. Nope, not going to work. It's got to go down farther, okay? And then holding my reed in place, I'm going to tighten those screws, okay? So let me see if I can do that real quick. Might take a second. Okay, we're going to tighten that up just enough to keep the reed on, okay? And so this is what you should see afterwards, okay? It should look kind of like this. Some people, you might have ligatures that, with the screws that actually end up on the back side. Just the rule that you want to look for is those screws are facing your right, okay? So if everything is correct, you should see a little sliver of black at the top, okay? Your reed should be nice and lined up. Your ligature should be over the hump, and that means you're ready to go, okay? So at this point, I usually have students practice blowing into the mouthpiece. Okay, I'll make another video for that. Let's continue assembling the clarinet. Well, the next parts are pretty easy, with one thing that I want to make sure you look out for to not harm your clarinet, okay? So after the ligature, mouthpiece, and barrel are all set up, all right, now I can start to assemble the rest of my clarinet. So I'm going to take my upper joint, remember, it's the part with the logo on it, all right, and I'm going to connect this to this, my barrel, okay? I'm going to kind of just, same as before, give it a slight twist. Now, I have it backwards, okay? What I like to look for is my reed is lined up with what I call the register key, but you might call it the Squidward key because it kind of looks like Squidward's nose, okay? So I can draw a line from this to my reed, okay? That's how you know that's set up correct. So double check that before we move on, all right? Next, I want you to locate something here for me, all right? That is the bridge key. It's going to be underneath this little cluster. So this little guy here, I'm touching, it's kind of hard to tell, is a bridge key. We need to raise that before we connect the lower joint, and I'll show you how. If you look here where the tone holes are, we call these holes, okay? I'm going to touch this key, and if you can see over here, I'll touch it with my other finger here, it's raising that bridge key when I touch it. So we're going to make sure that we're holding that down while we connect the lower joint. And let me grab that. Okay, so here's my lower joint. Put this down real quick. I'm going to look for the other side of the bridge key on the lower joint, which looks like this. Okay? So you're going to locate that. It's on the other side. There's a cluster here of keys. It's on the other side, the bridge key. Okay, so the bridge key of the upper joint is going to connect to the bridge key of the lower joint. Let me show you how, okay? I'm going to depress that key so that my bridge key pops up. Watch. See it pop up? I'm holding it down, and then I'm going to just kind of do the same thing with a slight twist. They're not lined up yet. Let me see if I can get it good in the camera here. And boom. Now they're lined up. Can you see how they're lined up? Let me wiggle that. Okay, so let me see if I can get it better. The idea is the bridge keys line up. If you don't hold that down, you might bend the bridge key. So we want to make sure that the bridge key is held down before we attach the lower joint. Okay? And if you line those up, then you should see all of your holes in a row here. See that? Finally, the easiest part is we take the bell, same deal, slight twist onto the cork. Now we have our fully assembled clarinet. We're ready to continue. All right? There you go.